So we just pulled him inside. He was out back behind a dumpster bluing himself to help with the Vox Cascadia podcast. Hey, Connor.
Hi, Chuck. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Yes, unfortunately, you did hear it right. I did just recently blew myself, but it was pretty good. It was all for the podcast and for the lovely people of Vox Cascadia.
Was it for the love of the people or the love of yourself? What do you mean you blew yourself?
I see. For context, I was priming a bunch of terrain, and for my Into the Dark board, I'm using black and blue as my main two colors. And to quote the great Tobias Fumke, I ended up bluing myself because my entire hand was blue. Apparently, blue spray hammer a lot more leaky than the other ones.
So you've been behind a dumpster
I
bluing
was
yourself.
not behind a dumpster. I was in the area where we throw the trash out because it's well lit throughout the day. And I just figured that'd be the easiest place to prime. But unfortunately, I forgot it was kind of an enclosed brick area and ended up giving myself a bit of a spray high, I guess.
Are you still high right now?
High on life.
That's good. That's a good game.
Walking on sunshine.
Speaking of high, Tyler, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing real good. Stopped by one of my favorite hobby shops, Hobby Town in Wilsonville today. While I was driving around and picked up some new God hands.
Yeah, Hobby Town. I do love a good Hobby Town. They've got some sneaky good stuff for our hobby. They're like a lot of what are they? The big robot models and a lot of like scale model stuff. But they've got some really good stuff for the Warhammer 40K / Kill Team hobby too.
Yeah, absolutely. The one in Wilsonville carries the mission model paints, and their thinner is my favorite airbrush thinner out there, and I've tried a lot of them.
So besides frequenting hobby towns, what have you been up to in the last week or so, bud?
Just been kind of working on my Nemesis claw slowly, adding little details, getting like refinements on them, filling in stuff to get them like towards the more advanced parts of a painting. Because I paint slow, kind of like I'll do a little bit each day, so it takes me a while to get through stuff.
Connor, besides getting high in a back alley, what have you been doing this week?
Pretty much just that. A bunch of terrain painting. It's been pretty fun because it's just a whole load of dry brushing, but it's been good. I've been nailing through it. Hopefully we'll have it all done. Probably we'll have it all done. Just excited for, Colossal Cage match. I've been looking forward to this for so long, and I can barely believe that it's here.
Yeah, it's coming up in just a couple days. Tyler and I will be heading up north to join y'all. Tyler's going to be the head judge. I'm going to be doing something, and I guess Connor, you're kind of running the thing, right?
Yeah, it'll be kind of or I don't know if running would be the word, but kind of like shadowing Tyler and Eric and you guys, and like figuring out how to run a larger scale event, because this is going to be the first one, and hopefully, as long as it's a good success, we're at 24 out of 24 players, so hopefully it will be. Trying to get more events up here in the local area for all the Washington folks.
Yeah, we sold it out, which is nice at 24. So it's good first tournament for the area. It'll be fun to get up there and see what the Northwest can bring besides coming down to Salem and Portland and kicking y'all's ass.
Exactly. Sometimes we got to keep it local.
I'm excited to come up there and just see all my friends from Washington that I don't get to see often, and check out a new store and set up just everything and that goes along with running a tournament. It's going to be really exciting. So, and I'm excited to meet your mom, Connor.
I knew this was a bad idea the second I mentioned it, but you know what, Tyler? I'm glad I could get you a spare bedroom to sleep in for this weekend.
So wait, hold on. I knew that Tyler was talking about like looking for a place to stay up there, and Connor, you offered up your mom's place. Tyler? Are you crashing at Connor's mom's?
Yeah, it sounds like it. So it's going to be a good time. I think Connor lives there also, which, as a recently graduated college student, I don't blame him.
Actually, no longer anymore. I finally did move out of my mom's basement. That's where you're going to be, actually, Tyler. But ironically enough, I just ended up moving down like 5 minutes down the street to the apartment. But it's nice having my own place, but it's also nice because I can go back home to the family and visit everyone. And it wasn't so difficult of a move, because if I forgot something, it was like a 15-minute drive.
Does your mom still do your laundry on the weekends?
No, my mom does not do my laundry on the weekends, Chucks.
Does
I'm a
Sierra do your
full-grown
laundry on the
adult
weekends?
living girlfriend. My girlfriend does the laundry. No, I do it.
Oh, does she now?
You occasionally do the laundry. I've not
Occasionally.
said anything untrue.
Occasionally, he said.
Yeah, I personally, I got to do the laundry in my house. Like, I don't know. I just prefer the way I do the laundry over the way my partner does the laundry. Not that there's anything noticeably different about the way we do laundry. It's just like a weird quirk I have.
So
No,
wait,
that's fair.
no, hold on, Tyler. How do you do the laundry? Walk me through Tyler doing the laundry.
Oh, like really, I like to keep our clothes separate. I think that's the big thing. I keep
Separate?
two separate laundry baskets, one with my clothes, one with her clothes. So like when I'm doing like, washing everything, mine get washed, and then like I know where all of my stuff is, and I can get it like all hung up and ready to go, and then I can do like she has like a lot of like stuff that she folds weird or like shirts that hang weird. And she likes to hang up those, so I do the other stuff there. And she hangs up the rest of those clothes.
Man, I've heard of lights and darks, but I don't even do that anymore. And like Jen and I just throw our stuff in together. I mean, I guess we're kind of like progressive that way, maybe.
Yeah, I guess so. Some old habits die hard. I don't know. I just like it. I like finding all my socks easier. I don't like picking through like extra clothes and stuff like that. I like knowing where my laundry is in the stack.
No, that's fair. I get that. We have a system where like we'll each kind of pull it out, but then I'll often separate it and then put them into the two different piles. But I can see why the appeal of just doing them one at a time. Plus, then you can like you said, finding the socks if you have similar colored socks easier. Sounds pretty nice.
All right, let's keep going with hot laundry talk. Are we like dryer sheet people or are we like dryer balls people?
I mean, definitely dryer sheets. Like, if you don't use anti-static dryer sheets, what are you doing with your life?
You're using the anti-dryer balls like I do.
I figured Connor would be a dryer balls person. Jenna's a dryer balls person too. I'm a I go I just go raw. I don't go dryer sheets. I don't go dryer balls. I'm just in there, just letting it dry.
I mean, that's a valid way to do it. I just like that extra little like zest that they give. That extra freshness coming out of there, and I do feel like the freshness lasts a little bit longer. I'm always a fan of that.
Now we got to get sponsored by like a dryer ball or dryer sheets company. We can be like the weirdest sponsor for a Kill Team themed podcast there is.
Also, kids, don't eat Tide Pods. Connor, don't eat Tide Pods
I don't eat Tide Pods. There's too much sugar in them,
anymore.
and I can't have it with my diabetes.
That's true. If it wasn't for the sugar in Tide Pods, you'd just be chowing down on them.
100%, yeah. The problem is they look too much like fruit snacks, which is like one of the few things I can't eat.
Do you guys like your fruit snacks like Gushers style, where there's like a filling in it, or do you just want like a regular fruit snack?
I mean, I want it to squirt in my mouth. I'm going out there with it. I want it to squirt in my mouth.
I'm the opposite. I like just like the classic Welch's strawberry one, where it's just pure gummy. Like it's practically a gummy bear at that point.
Okay, now firm or soft?
I'm gonna go with more firm.
Of course.
Okay, I like kind of like like a medium soft gummy or fruit snack. I don't want it too firm. Like the ones where you bite them and your like tooth kind of like slices it in half and it sticks on both sides of it.
That's
Undesirable.
Like yeah, that's like movie theater candy.
Yeah, that sounds more like biting into a Starburst or something. That's not what a jelly, or not a jelly, but a fruit snack should be.
Yeah, I think there's certain brands like the Black Forest ones tend to be that way. More so. I have a lot of opinions on fruit snacks because I worked at the convenience store for a long time.
You know what I have found recently, actually? I've always been a black licorice fan, but I've found that like European black licorice is like salty and I love it.
That sounds delicious. Big black licorice fan.
Yeah, when we were at the coast one of these times, like there's a lot of like Scandinavian stores down in Astoria, and we found like salted black licorice, and I am absolutely in love with it now. And Jenna got me a package of it last time we were down there when I was getting drunk playing Kill Team with Sam.
Were you drinking Jägermeister with it?
No, I was just going with the basic bitch IPA stuff from Obelisk.
Jägermeister, which for those of you who don't know, was very popular in the early 2000s, and that was the closest I ever came to a drinking problem. Like I was like, oh man, I love this black licorice liquor, and got too sick off it a couple times. I was like, nope, this stuff is trouble. Never again.
Wait, is Jägermeister made out of black licorice?
No, it's got like hints of it though. If you want like licorice liqueur though, it's ouzo, right? That's the one, the Greek one that's tastes like licorice.
I don't think I've ever had Uzo.
Oh, it's just basically like liquid licorice.
Okay, sounds delicious.
Speaking of bad Jägermeister things, I back in this would have been like 2001, maybe 2002, when I was watching a lot of wrestling actually with my friends. It was like Monday Night Raw, and I chugged a pint of Jägermeister. It went very, very badly.
Yeah, that's basically the same story I had. I went to a party and apparently I did something similar, and I woke up the next day not in my clothes.
Whose clothes were in?
I don't know, honestly. Probably the person's house I was at, which that was weird. Like it was very confusing waking up in a bathroom not in your own clothes. Never again after that.
Naturally, my body did not handle a pint of Jägermeister very well, and it then expelled all that Jägermeister. And my girlfriend at the time picked me up and took me home. I tried to go to work the next day, didn't work out. Went back home. My buddy, who I lived with at the time, came in and saw, and he asked me if I had been beaten above the shoulders with a 2x4 because my face was so messed up from being sick.
Now I'm just feeling like I'm missing out. I don't have any crazy like Jägermeister stories.
You don't need them, buddy. Just live through us.
Okay, sounds good. At least it made me laugh. Tyler said, waking up in not your clothes. Now we can all wake up in Tyler's clothes thanks to the sick dice thrower merch. So make sure to buy some right now. Go buy
Look
it
at
now.
the look
Now.
at the segue, the plug on
Now.
that.
I know how to do a good plug.
That's like
That
pro
was
podcast shit.
that was incredible, man. If I made more money off of these shirts, or really any money, I would like pay you to promote it, because that was smooth.
That's okay. I don't need to get paid for these, Tyler. I get the enjoyment of just being on the podcast with you lovely people and wearing this wonderful merch that you should all go buy right now.
I just gotta say, while we're talking about merch, this run of shirts, not that my last ones haven't been great. Going forward, I've just made it like a couple little changes, and I think that the quality is going to be even nicer. The fit's going to be even nicer, and there's just like extra little details to show you all my love, because I do this mostly like just for the fun of it. It's a good project, and I want shirts and clothing as cool and as nice as this hobby is. For everyone to wear, so we don't have to like spend $45 on a shitty DTG Warhammer official shirt that looks like crap.
Tyler, where can the people find your stuff?
Dicethrower.bigcartel.com.
Yeah, I do appreciate the quality that you want to put in your stuff, because the capitalist / banker in me chatting with you is like, can we make this cheaper? Can we like skip on the quality? You're like, no, we can't. Don't care about profits. Want to make good stuff.
I'll probably release like a more moderate line, but like there's always going to be a kind of, I want to keep like a super high quality artist line, but like even if I have a lower price line with like more regular graphics, not like hand drawn art and stuff like that, it's still going to be super nice quality. Like I will never ever sacrifice quality on any of the projects I do, just because it's a reflection on me, and like I like to do stuff nice. It's overproduced often, people tell me.
No, they're fantastic shirts. Fully agree on that. And like you said, it's another nice aspect about them is that they don't kind of just scream like nerdy hobby, which is totally fair. But a lot of like kind of more goofy nerdy hobbies like this, the most that a company will do or like a brand will do, or that type of whatever is producing the hobby will do, is just essentially throw a game logo on it or like something really kind of goofy. Well, these are like, they look sick. And if you have no context for what Warhammer is, or Kill Team or anything like that, it's still a great shirt, and it's fantastic, and they're super comfortable like you said. But I just like the fact that it's a cool logo, and I can feel like I can wear it all the time, and it's a little bit more low key in the aspect of what it's representing, rather than like, here's a League of Legends logo or a Halo logo or something.
Well, the good thing is that while the shirts don't scream nerdy hobby, the people wearing the shirts scream nerdy hobby. And I love all y'all, and I embrace it. So it doesn't have to say it on the shirt. We say it ourselves.
Absolutely, 100%. You see people, other nerds recognize other nerds. Real recognizes real out there.
Nerd recognize nerd.
And as far as designs go, I know my designs have been pretty hard so far. There's definitely like a old school Warhammer death metal feel, but I definitely have stuff that's planned that's a little softer and fluffier, and it's gonna kind of like push the boundary. I want to make sure that like I have like some more feminine designs and gender neutral designs and stuff like that. Because while looking like you're wearing a death metal T-shirt for tabletop games, dope. Not everyone wants to do that 100% of the time.
I think you need to get the navy beacher or whatever they are. The stickers you have. That's what I want to see. I want to see that style on a shirt.
Yeah, I think that definitely gonna do a shirt here soon with them on it. I'll probably send that over. The color palette on it would probably work excellent on a tank top.
I think honestly, like I mean, you watch YouTube videos into the AM. That logo, the Breacher logo on the beach that's straight off an Into the AM shirt, but cooler.
Oh man, I don't know if that's a positive reference on there. Those shirts.
I wondered how
Oh,
you'd take that.
yeah. No, I mean like, but I get it. It's like bright and colorful, which is like a big departure from a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. I definitely think like the Breacher has potential. I don't know about like a big round circle on a shirt. That's like the thing I'm cautious about.
I think if you go like on the back, like I think on a logo on the back would look good, or even like on the left chest area would work too.
Maybe like a Breacher pocket shirt. Would that be cool? If you guys are listening, give me some feedback on the Discord. I'd love to hear it in the Dice Thrower section, or like DM me on Instagram, whatever. Like any of the stuff that you hear, reach out, because community feedback matters to me.
You mentioned on the pocket shirt. That was making me think of the baseball design you had the other day, where there's like a different color for the collar and the end of the sleeves. Something like that, maybe for a lot of the sticker designs, could work pretty well.
Yeah, definitely like a ringer tee is coming here soon for the summer with the All Our Bites Are Bastards colorways. So that should be fun.
Can like you have the breacher with a grenade, but the grenade is like a puffer fish, like he pulled it from the ocean and he's just tossing it?
I mean, I could definitely make that happen. I reach out to the artist and they'd happily draw it up, I'm sure.
All right, so this is a Kill Team podcast, and we haven't really talked Kill Team yet. So let's talk about Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Tyler, do you have any updates for us?
No updates really. Like there's some scuttlebutt about like blind items and stuff, but there's no new rap beef. Although, what's his name? Like Macklemore released a diss on the U.S. government, which was like pretty interesting. Calling out the U.S. government and corporations and stuff like that for not stopping the genocide that's currently going on in Gaza.
Yeah, I did see that. I didn't have a chance to listen to it, but it's good that artists are speaking out about that too.
Yeah, it was it was. I was talking with Sierra about that song. Fun enough, yesterday. It's fully agree with the message. Totally, like support it, and it was funny to come from Macklemore, who's like always kind of been weirdly on the right side of this stuff for like since I was in high school. But I was like, the one problem I had with it is I did not enjoy the song in terms of like the actual rhythm and music of it. I just like, damn, I've been listening to nothing but like Kendrick again for like an entire week straight, and going to that felt a little like it's a slight degrade, but fully support the message. Which please next time, in my opinion, a little bit better of a song, please.
I agree with the political message on like most of Macklemore's stuff. However, it does feel like virtue signaling in kind of a way. Like it's always, I don't know. It feels like kind of pandering, which like do what you got to do, and like the positive message is better than anything else, but it just feels a little strange to me. I don't know. Like I guess I'm more in the line of like Dead Prez and the Coup when it comes to like political hip hop, personally.
And that's been this week's wrap update, I guess. Maybe
The wrap up.
the wrap. There you go. All right, you got it, buddy. The wrap up. All right, so let's talk about stuff upcoming. We got tournaments coming up this week. We have the Colossal Cage match up in Bremerton, Washington. Connor spoke about it earlier. Connor spoke about it every week. Connor is super excited for this, and we are too. There's also a small little like, I don't know, it's kind of a small tournament down in Dallas that Games Workshop is hosting. So it'll be cool to see that one too. All the cool kids are going to the one in Bremerton. Are you guys excited for the Dallas one? Especially since we're going to have some great players going there. I know Dakota's going from Squad Games. It sounds like I was listening to Squad Games this morning. Jason Stanecki from the California area, who was at Worlds last year, and we met him at LVO, is going to be there too. It sounds like people are coming from the East Coast too. I think Baki's going to be there as well. Are you guys excited for the Dallas one coming up?
I definitely am. The first GT of the season is always like a pretty big event because like it really sets kind of the tone for the rest of the season. And like depending on who comes out on top on this, it may affect who's coming up to Tacoma. Because I know Baki's really shooting for that golden ticket this year. He took it from me the first year in Tacoma. And so I think if he doesn't get it here in Dallas, he's probably going to be up in Tacoma.
So are you hoping that he wins Dallas so you can dodge him in Tacoma this year, buddy?
No, I would love to play Chris again. One of the most intense matches I've ever played. I was a far worse player at the time. I'm sure he was also. But that game was really enlightening. Chris is one of the best players in the United States, hands down. Like, if you've met him or you played him, you know it. He's incredibly, his mind gets this stuff. So, wonderful opponent. Would love to play him anytime.
Yeah, I've met him in person. I've heard him on a few podcasts, and yeah, his brain dissects Kill Team in a way that I can't. I'm just the host of this stuff. Y'all know the Kill Team stuff better than I do. I just facilitate. I think it's gonna be cool also too. With Dallas is gonna be the first major where we have the new teams, the Night Lords and the Mandrakes. So I'm interested to see how those teams come out there. And also, I think this is the first big event post balanced data slate.
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't think anything really significant has happened since it. So it'll be interesting to see like what kind of shakes up the meta, whether Orcs and Vedguard are still going to be on top, whether Mandrakes and Night Lords are truly the second coming of Christ in terms of power or not, and whether or not anyone in 100 can get a top finish. Because if they do, I'll love them forever.
Spoiler alert: they won't.
I hate you.
It's got Pathfinders are going to make a really strong showing. I think people are sleeping on Pathfinders. They're mean. Blooded are real mean right now too.
True, yeah. Both those teams are probably going to be solid. Do we have any idea what they're doing for like terrain? Whether it's going to be mixed with ITD or hell, maybe even some Beta Decima?
I believe it's just going to be mixed ITD and open Octarius. It should be pretty straightforward. As far as like scoring goes, I believe it is tournament points and then show of strength after that for the tiebreaker.
Well, besides that tiny little tournament, we have a 24-player tournament coming up in Bremerton, Washington. And Tyler, have you ever been to Bremerton? I've been there a few times, but never really explored the area.
No, I've never really been up in Bremerton too much. I went up a couple summers ago and installed a bunch of Bitcoin ATMs all throughout Washington. So, like, if you go into a convenience store and there's a coin flip ATM there, I probably installed it, but that's like the most time I ever spent in Bremerton.
Well, you're about to get some more time this weekend, and luckily we have a local who is going to give us a guide to the area. I think maybe I asked him to set something up. We'll see what he's got. Connor, tell us about your hometown.
Yes, so Bremerton. So this little kind of town that exists in the Washington. When I tell people I live on the coast, most of the time they're not even aware that the Puget Sound isn't actually on the ocean. They don't realize Washington continues for another like 2 or 3 miles past Seattle. So that's always kind of fun to explore. I imagine most of you that are listening are probably somewhat local to the Pacific Northwest, so you might be aware of that fact, but most of the family and friends I've got out on the East Coast aren't aware of that. So that's kind of fun. As for Bremerton, on a more local area, it is directly across the bay from Seattle, which is kind of cool. Means you can take a ferry from Seattle to Bremerton. It's about an hour or 30 minutes, depending on which type of ferry you get. And I know we got a couple of people coming from the Seattle area. Shout out to everyone that is. And we'll be taking a ferry that morning. If you need, let me know. I'll pick you up from the ferry on the Bremerton side. Otherwise, Bremerton's kind of split down by a bay itself as well. They call it East and West Bremerton. I don't get why, because it's like split north to south. And I think north and south Bremerton would have made far more sense.
Okay, all right, real quick. Let's can we go back to the ferry?
Yes.
On here. What's your favorite part of the ferry? That's what I want to know, Connor.
I like the fast ferry because it's 30 minutes. The difference between the two of them is the slow ferry is an hour long, but it can bring cars on it. That's pretty exciting. But the fast ferry, as the name implies, is fast. It's kind of like almost a giant speedboat. You can actually get a little bit of like rocking on it, which is always super fun.
I've taken the ferry a few times. I've taken the foot ferry from I think Port Orchard, and then we went over to Seattle, me and Nick, one time. But I've also taken the ferry a couple different times from Whidbey Island, and that's one of the car ferries where you can like go and have a beer.
Oh, that sounds really nice. It's always like, ferries are fun. Occasionally, because I'm a traveling technician, for those of you that don't know, and in Oregon, there's a lot of rivers, and on the back road, sometimes there's ferries to get across in weird spots. So when I'm bored or got like a weird amount of time, and I'll just go and I'll take the ferry across or the river just for fun.
The ferries are pretty cool. They're often like a weird touristy thing just to go, but especially on the sunny days, it's super nice because you can end up seeing Mount Tahoma or Mount Rainier, Mount Tacoma, whatever you want to call it. But you can end up seeing it from the ferry, and like I said, drinking a beer, or like having some fish and chips on the ferry is always a pretty enjoyable time.
All right, Connor. So I'm in Bremerton.
Yes.
I'm pissed because I went 0-3. My name is Nick, and I need to find a beer. Where do I go?
All right. Well, if we're at Comics Keep, which is most likely where you're going to be after this event, I can tell you that there's a couple of cool places. There's a lot of like basic run of the mill chain restaurants a little bit down the road from it, like a
I want some. No, I'm from the Northwest. I want something like. I want
yes.
something
We want a
bougie. I
dive
want.
bar.
No, no, I want a brewery. Tyler wants a dive bar, but okay, so I need a dive bar and I need a brewery because I'm gonna have one at the brewery and then I'm gonna go to the dive bar.
Let me Google really quick Bremerton Dive Bar because I don't know anything about that.
Then
Ask Sierra;
I
she
don't want
probably
to.
knows.
Yeah, come on. Like if you don't have firsthand experience, can you really recommend a dive bar?
I'm afraid I can't recommend a dive bar just because I don't have firsthand experience, but I do know there's a decent amount of public houses and breweries very close by to the location of the tournament, like
All
just
right,
down the road. In
give me a
fact,
brewery. Where's my brewery?
there's I know there is the Tracyton Public House, which is kind of on the beach on the inside of the bay, which is pretty fun. And then there's also something called Crane's Castle, but a little bit farther north, about a 20-minute drive, is a restaurant I used to work at like way back in the day in a town called Paulsbo. Paulsbo's pretty fun.
McDonald's.
What?
McDonald's.
No, I hate you. No. Paulsbo is pretty cool because, like you talked about earlier, the coast has a lot of Scandinavian like towns and stuff. Paulsbo is one of those. All of like the downtown main like strip is painted and designed like old school European like housing. It's all bright colors. It's super fun, and there's like 9 different local breweries in there. I know that a decent amount of them actually ship throughout the Northwest as well. Like they have, you can go buy their 12 packs in like Fred Meyer or Safeway. So that's kind of neat.
All right, so now I'm in Paulsbo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drunk
Yes.
and I need something to eat
Ooh, something to eat. Okay.
in Bremerton.
In Bremerton. All right. So you're driving back. Hopefully someone else is driving if you're drunk. Be safe.
You sent me to Paulsbo. I told you I want to drink, and you sent me up north. This is on you, buddy.
You shush. I did no such thing. Don't drink and drive. That's illegal. Be safe. As for where to get some food to eat, what I would recommend if you're wanting pizza, which I imagine you do if you're drunk because pizza always seems good, there's a place I really enjoy going to called Toadstool. I know the name's a little weird, but I think itself is also a bar. But it's like a artisan pizza place that's pretty inexpensive, and they like they cook it right in the giant pizza oven in front of you, which is super fun.
All right, so I have my beers in Paulsbo. I had somebody else drive me back to Bremerton and went to Toadstool, but I want dessert now. Where am I going for dessert?
Oh, perfect. Now to round it back out to the ferry place, there's a little, like, right next to the ferry dock is a little, like, ice cream place. I'm blanking on the name right now. I'm sorry to this ice cream place. But pretty fun. We go there regularly after going to Seattle and coming home, and then you go get ice cream afterwards. It's a fun little treat.
All right, so now I got drunk. I had pizza. I had my dessert. And now I need some after hours entertainment. Where am I going?
I don't know that. My apartment, and we can just play some games of Kill Team.
Sounds like a good time.
We could just go to your mom's house. It's in the area, right?
I'm gonna beat you to death.
That's where you'll find me. So,
hey Tyler, what'd you do this last weekend? I hung out at Connor's mom's.
Yeah, I can't wait till Brandon hears this. He's gonna love this.
Yeah, well, your dad and mom don't live together at this point apparently because your dad's okay. Sorry.
I hate you so much. It's probably the most I hate yous I've said.
Yeah, it's good. New high score. All right, so let's actually talk about Kill Team. Flamers, Pyro. What is it? What is the? No, I'm blanking on it. What's the name of the Prometheum? Prometheum spouting from a weapon, engulfing your enemies in flame. Really sucks in Kill Team. How do we make this better? There's like 3 or 4 good flamers at the time, or flamer equivalents. Maybe not flamers, but the weapons that work that way. So we've got like Farstalker Kinband has their their Skinner. It's kind of flame weapon, 6 attacks, 2 hitting on 2s, 2-3 damage. AP2 Cumbersome Torrent. You've got the Novitiates. Tyler, you can tell us all about that one. What's the Novitiates flamer do, Tyler?
It kills people. 2-3 damage normally. Then you can buff it to 3-4. Um, it's excellent. But like there's a lot of good flamers. What do you do to fix them though? Is a good question.
I mean, but I feel like flamers are one of those like they're the guy you don't even build.
Yeah.
They're like I built my Castrican kill team and I have a flamer that is still like halfway built and didn't do it. I built my flamers for my orcs and I had to build another orc because you don't want to take the flamers. So
I think the orc flamer is actually better than people think because like it shoots better than a boy, and you just give him a choppa, so he does everything a normal boy does.
but even with the chop and nerf,
And post choppa nerf, maybe not as much. Because that does change the dynamics of the commandos team a little bit.
so what would you do though to for your standard flamers for other ones to make them something you want to take, something that's effective and something that people are afraid of too?
So my first thing, we've mentioned it before, but I just think Inferno should be a keyword on all flamer weapons. If it shoots fire, it should have that keyword, and that keyword should be able to stack. So if you roll 3 crits, you get 3 Inferno tokens. It's not going to do a lot, but at least it makes it more appealing to even look at.
So I think Inferno needs to be flat out changed. I think it should just be 1 mortal wound for each Inferno token inflicted that round, and then it should go away. Other than that, I don't think that the Flamer should necessarily receive a damage buff. I think that the Novitiate Flamer is kind of like their defining feature, and if you buff all Flamers to 2-3 damage, it really it takes away some of the specialness of what Novitiates are, even though they can buff theirs even further. I think what Flamers need, though, is maybe like Lethal 5, and maybe some kind of stun mechanic or something like that, because if you're on fire, are you really going to be doing everything that you were?
I can agree with the one of the novitiates definitely need to stay a little bit stronger, especially because like even in base game 40k, the novitiates or like the Sisters of Battle Flamers have different names than other ones and are always generally like a strength higher or have some AP on them. Various ways of making them represent like the ecclesiarchy have better ones. I like the idea of stun mechanic. Another one I've seen though is that essentially give the gun brutal. So if you're being shot with a flamer, you can only block the damage if you roll a crit on your save. Because at that point, it's already doing so little damage as is that rolling crits only is fine because it's fire. You got to get lucky to avoid fire being thrown at you.
I love the idea of brutal being part of a shooting weapon, especially like a flamer. I also think fixing Torrent would go a long ways because right now Torrent is not great. Like it should be a blast style weapon, or at least a little bit. Maybe it ignores cover, stuff like that. It just gets really, really weird when you're trying to figure out how it actually works and who it's gonna hit.
Yeah, true. Torrent, not great. And you kind of said it there, but it was kind of leading into my next point perfectly. Give it a new keyword entirely where it just ignores light cover. It's kind of like indirect, but rather units can't take cover from other models or from light cover because, you're setting that terrain on fire, so it's not going to be protecting you either.
That's something that I was going to ask too. Is that what if we give flamers indirect? Because if you're just dousing someone with flame, yeah, light cover is not going to really protect them.
Honestly, no cover also on there. No cover, indirect, and then like 1 mortal wound per Inferno token, lethal 5. I think you have a very deadly, very usable weapon at that point that's probably still debatable on whether you're going to take it over, say, like a grenade launcher or something like that, depending on matchup.
I think though that'll actually get it into some matchups because looking at like say again, I love Castrican. Castrican Flamer, 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, 2/2 damage, Torrent 2. Never even built the model, played Castrican for a year.
I mean, honestly, it would really help a lot of teams that struggle into hordes. Castrican are one of those teams that struggle into hordes, legionaries. It'd probably help them out a lot to see that on there, something like that.
I think, yeah, that would be really cool to have like the bonus for a lot of those teams just to make the gun even be thought about taking or being taken. Now that we know they're a little bit more interested in the mechanics of like saves being changed based on what type of profile your opponent has through the mandrakes and their APL saves, maybe something that's on a similar level where I think for the most part, any model that's made out of metal, so like Necrons or is wearing armor, has a 3-up save, like significant armor, ceramite armor. So maybe if the flamer is hitting a model with a 4-up or better save, which is pretty much just elves and like guardsman equivalent type guys, it gets some sort of bonus or extra damage type of thing to represent you don't have armor to protect you. You're kind of just wearing cloth and like a ballistic vest. Fire will go through that pretty bad.
And while I like that idea, like as far as like structure or narrative goes, I don't think applying a rule like that to the entire game is probably positive. Having it be a gimmick for one team is probably better just for game flow and stuff like that.
No, that's totally fair. I can see that as well. We don't want to like make it too complicated to think about as well.
Do you think we're seeing an evolution in like flamer style weapons? Because between the Blades of Cain with the Banshees and their Shriek that Kills, which is 6 attacks, hitting on threes, 1/2 damage, indirect, no cover, and torrent 1 inch. We also have the Mandrakes have a new flamer style weapon, which is their horrifying scream on the Dirge Maw. 2 attacks, 2/2 damage, range 6, indirect, soul strike, mortal wounds 2, and stun. Do you think we're going to see more weapons like this, or is this just a couple of one-offs?
I think it's a couple one-offs overall. I think both of these kind of fit the lore for these. Banshees have this scream that they've had forever. It's like part of their thing. And then for Mandrakes, having one guy that can scream, that kind of makes sense. I do like seeing different, kind of examples of what a flamer can be. If some of the keywords got changed, though, it could also be like really crazy. Can you imagine the Kroot flamer if indirect or not indirect, or if it was indirect, as part of torrent, or if like it had mortal wounds, or the way that cover worked for it actually worked correctly.
I mean, the Kroot Flamer, though, the Kroot Flamer has nothing wrong with it. It's 6 attacks on twos, 2/3 damage, AP2, cumbersome torrent. That deletes models even with 2/3 damage.
Oh, for sure it does. And like if you change torrent and made it work better and stuff like that, it'd be even scarier.
You kind of mentioned it, Chuck, but it reminded me. I'm curious on what your guys' thoughts actually, because it very likely will come up this tournament. That flamer with the stun. How do you each kind of think that interferes with the saves of the person that's being shot by it? Because if you recall, for anyone that's not super familiar with the Mandrakes, the ways that when a Mandrake shoots at an opponent, their save is not their normal save characteristic. It is instead based on their APL. So if your APL is 2, you want to roll a 1 or a 2 for your save. And if your APL is 3, you want to roll a 1 through a 3. However, the stun keyword instantly reduces your APL by 1. So does that mean that during that shooting attack, say you're normally an APL 2 model and you get hit by that stun, does that mean you're only saving on 1s from now on for that shooting attack?
So the save characteristic is still going to be 2 for the model overall, I believe. Like that, the characteristic doesn't change. What you're modifying is like the available APL on there. So when they activate, they generate 2 APL because that's their APL characteristic, and then they have a penalty of 1 from whatever it is on there. So personally, unless we get an FAQ, I still think you're going to be saving at the same as you would before.
I think it's a little different because what I'm looking at is stuns come from critical hits. So you're striking with a critical hit. So if they roll a 6, the other person has to roll a 1 to block it, to not strike with it. I understand that correctly. So it still works the same. It's kind of flipped. Instead of them rolling a 6 to block a 6, you have to roll a 1 to block a 6.
That's true. That's true. But rather, I've seen some people read it based on, now I'm trying to find the exact wording of the Mandrake's Soul Strike ability. But essentially, the way the APL modifier happens the second they get that stun keyword, they retain the dice. So you're always going to be getting hit by stun. That means their APL drops essentially when that happens. So does that mean, say you get a hit and you get a normal hit and then a stun crit with your flamer? Does that mean they essentially can only roll 1s to successfully negate? Like even a 2 wouldn't negate, say, your 4 that you got. I know that's a lot of weird numbers that is said, so if that didn't make sense, my bad.
Yeah, again, because like the characteristic is not actually ever being modified. Like you don't change the characteristic, you just change it for the roll. Like so on paper, on the data sheet, it is always a 2 or a 3 or whatever. You're just, when it's activated, it changes the available APL on there. like because it's taking a penalty. It doesn't actually change that characteristic.
Yeah, I think it's an APL modifier with stun rather than their target's APL. So I don't think it's gonna like Tyler. I think that's what you're saying at least.
Yeah,
Mm.
basically, it's like when you shoot the Prophet of Yelindra, the grenade guy for or the disciple of Yelindra or whatever it is for or not Blades of Cain, Hand of the Archon that throws the torment grenade, has a funny little gun, and it's based off of the save characteristic on there of a character. So it's not like, so if someone had AP or something like that, it wouldn't be changed regardless. It's always going off of what's on the data sheet.
I found I agree with that. The one thing now that I'm curious about is, at least on Waha, when hovering over the Soul Strike, it mentions there's a designer's note that says many rules in the army list refer to an enemy operative's APL. This would be the APL at the time the rules takes effect, i.e., including modifiers. And I think that's where I've seen it, where people get confused whether or not the stun would essentially lower your save by one as well.
So I think from what it sounds like is, say they got stunned. So say you hit them, they got stunned next turn. It would be, but when you said when the roll takes effect, so they're stunned. They're not modified until after the roll has been made. So I think like the next turn, yeah, it sounds like they would be having to save on sixes potentially for everything.
Okay, gotcha. I appreciate it. That was just something that I've had come up, and I'm like, I can see it both ways, and I was curious what you two thought on it.
This is also why I'm just kind of facilitating, and Tyler has to deal with all the rules interactions.
We
Yeah, I'm
appreciate Tyler and Greg.
definitely need to look this up. Figure out this before the weekend happens. So
All right, so we've fixed flamers. We have no idea how the Mandrake's rules work quite yet, but Tyler's going to figure it out before the weekend. Let's take some Ask Vox Cascadia questions. Brandon Bean, Connor's dad, asks, if you were to compare teams on their launch strength to where they are now, what team do you feel has had the biggest glow up?
that's a difficult one because a couple teams have had like pretty big glow ups, but I think that the big winner is probably Hyrotech Circle. I want to say like they're quite consistently good, like great team now. And they were pretty crummy when they first came out.
I would have to throw out there the Casterkin as well, too, because I played Casterkin from the start and they were fine, but then they got quite a few buffs that made them not exactly the Caster Kings that Dakota crowned them. They turned out to be Casternauts, but they did a lot of good work for me, and I still think they're still a really good team.
Both of those are great answers, but I'm going to actually throw out the Phobos. I think the significant changes, particularly to Vanguard, has been a huge help. I think the fact that Terror is now a free action kind of makes Reavers like, instead of like, oh, maybe I'll bring it, like you always bring it, and Terror is just an incredibly powerful ability, especially considering it's free. It might as well just be not even an action, it should just be an ability at this point, rather. And I think Phobos are slept on, and with how much more fun they are to play now compared to when they came out, I think is the thing that swings them in my favor. Because Herotech, I always thought was kind of fun to play, even as weird as they were and kind of janky and uncharacteristically, or not uncharacteristically, but as unintuitive as their rules were.
So a couple teams that have had glow ups, and Nick asked, what would you do to the Farstalker Kinman to bring them in line with other teams? And Jimmy Spake asked, what would you do to the Exaction too? These are a couple teams that have been struggling for a while, and they've got some buffs and some changes, but they're still, we're not seeing them at top tables. We're not seeing the win rate on them, and they are fun, flavorful teams to bring, but not if you want to compete. Tyler, how would you fix these teams?
It's really hard. Exaction Squad needs like a pretty heavy hand. I think they just really struggle into anything with 3-up armor saves or more wounds than themselves, or they drastically outnumber them. I think maybe extra bodies is probably the way to go for Exaction Squad at this point. Their models are not incredibly powerful, and having 2 to 3 extra bodies would probably go an extremely long way for them, and then maybe make the dog like a free model if the leash master's taken.
Do you think in general you should just have across the board pets should be free if you take the controller?
Yeah, depending on, like, I think it should be figured in to kind of the balance of the controller unit and stuff like that in the game. But I want more pets in the game, and I want to see pets on the board. So I think that like they should really kind of plug that and make it worthwhile to take pretty much every time.
I think the way that you bring Farstalker Kinban in line is you strip away more of the restrictions on their operatives. And I think this because that's what Brandon Bean said, and I'm not going to say all the stuff he said because it was really smart and I don't want to take that away from him, but you should join his Patreon so you can find that out there too. But I think I've talked to him a few times and he said basically like they have for every positive they have a negative. So we need to just take away some of those negatives. A lot of those other teams don't have the negatives that they have. So that would help align them more with other teams.
Another thing too that I'd like to see for Farstalkers beyond just going up +1 attack to every operative, so they're all base 4, because it's ridiculous that they're a melee themed team and only at 4 base dice isn't that incredible on a 8 wound model. So maybe make them 9 wounds too. I'd appreciate that. But the other thing, their compendium team has I believe it's 2 cost piece of equipment that is pretty useful. It's like a melee only a piece of equipment. It is indeed 2 cost, and it's a skinning blade. 4 attacks, 3 up ballistic skill, and damage is 3/5. I think you could easily throw that on the team and make them a little bit stronger because it gives them some more melee prowess, making the +1 attack strat ploy not completely feel awful to use because you're having to do something that it should be at base. Otherwise, I'd also like to just see the excuse me, which guy? The sniper guy. He should have silent all the time. It's weird that he doesn't. He's a sniper. Give him silent.
I think with the Exaction Squad too, they need real gunners. Their gunners kind of suck, and they also need to be able to arrest at least 8 wound models because most of them can only do 7 wound models besides the leather daddy guy. But everybody else can only do 7 wound models, and there's very few 7 wound models in the game. Or seven, there's very few 7 wound model teams in the game anymore because everybody's been bumped to 8 wounds, like Casterkin, like Exaction Squad, like dwarves.
Chuck, you want to know what the worst part of that statement is?
Yeah, duh.
The worst part is they can actually arrest. If I'm reading it here, or maybe I'm looking at the wrong guy, they can arrest 10 wound models.
So God, what's his name? The leather daddy can arrest 10 wound models.
Oh, okay.
Everybody
I'm
else
looking
can
at the
only
wrong
do
person
7 wound
then.
models. Yeah.
Still, yeah. I in that case, yeah, make it go up, especially if I'm reading the right one. Oh, now I
Yeah,
am. That helps.
just to make sure you're reading the right rules, Google leather daddy with safe search off, and then
I
you'll
don't
find
think
those
I'm
rules.
going to do that. Another change though I like to see for them is I think the execution order CP. They've already made it free the first time, which is pretty good. It's probably a little too strong at that point into elites, but oh well. They still struggle into elites, and I'd like to see it be usable by more than just if their leader is alive. Maybe like their spotter guy, which I think is they got weird names, Revelatum or something. Maybe if he's alive, he can still do it too. It's a powerful ploy, but it's essentially just relentless on one guy. That's not really useful in the hordes. They should be able to have more than one person on their team use that ploy.
All right, so now that we fixed those teams, Colin asks, what's your dream team for any of the teams that don't have bespoke ones now, specifically Death Guard? And Tristan added in Gay Knights cough. I mean, Gray Knights.
Uh, Personally, I think that would be the perfect box. I don't know how, like with Chaos Gate releasing in the middle of the Kill Team cycle, they didn't capitalize on a Death Guard Grey Knights box. Missed promotion opportunity, Games Workshop. But what I want to see from the two teams is I want to see the heroes come back as a bespoke kill team. I want to see
Like the Space Marine Heroes Death Guard box.
Yeah, exactly. 6 models, you got 7 options, and give them some sick ass rules. Ha ha ha. But like, I'd like to see them more debuff based rather than say resilience based. I'd like to see them make your team worse by making them sick. Pre-game, like miasmas, stuff like that. Maybe like a couple toxins that you can select for your team, stuff like that.
I like the idea of like selecting toxins, kind of like the Gellerpox guy who can choose what keywords his weapon has. Maybe there's like 4 or 5 options the Death Guard can have. I don't remember what their heroes guys look like, but I'm sure there's some sort of Grenadier type guy and some sort of guy holding some weird Death Guard device. Maybe they get to like have special bomb effects that you get to choose what those are before the game. So maybe if you're fighting like an elf team, hey, all your dashes are -1 movement. Maybe you're fighting a marine team. Hey, your saves one worse when you're on an objective, something like that. Where you get to kind of customize it a little bit more. So it's still pretty exciting to play. Would be pretty fun.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Like, basically, kind of going into the match, they get to select plague or miasma or whatever, and they all have a different effect. Super dope. I think that they should have one guy that is super durable in the classic Death Guard style, the Plague Wizard, and they got the heavy weapons person. Like, there's a lot of great stuff in that heroes box, or even in the regular Plague Marine box. Like, release the heroes as the kill team, and then come out with additional rules so that you can add other stuff from the regular Plague Marine box.
What about Grey Knights?
Grey Knights, first they should get whole new models. They should get upsized so that they're not so squatty anymore, and then like make them psychic powerhouses. Like really lean into that. The most elite, most powerful Space Marines out there, because they're doing all kinds of crazy psychic shit with their storm bolters and their power weapons on everyone.
Yeah, I never thought about the Chaos Gate tie-in there, but that would have been a really good one. But Games Workshop doesn't tie in stuff like they should. So
like the only problem I see with Grey Knights, honestly, is that if they become bespoke, they're likely to be overpowered. Like every person has a power weapon, every person has a storm bolter at least. Just like going from Trader Space Marine to Legionaries, that power jump was huge and stuff like that. So Grey Knights have huge potential to be just very, very, very busted as a team.
It could be crazy, but if they're going full, bespoke team, maybe make it a 5-man team, but kind of like we've discussed, like a Suro Skull or two, or maybe like an Inquisitorial Goon type of deal to just be a mission action monkey. Because if I recall correctly, Grey Knights are often very similarly used alongside the Inquisition, so I can see them having like a Surf or two.
They do not use Surf, so Grey Knights are exclusively like their own Ordo, like part of the Ordo Malleus, and like they don't do Surfs. Like they are known for exterminating entire planets after demonic infection, stuff like that. The Grey Knights are like not very nice. In one of the books, actually, the wolves, fucking space wolves, get into a big conflict with the Grey Knights because they're like, oh no, we're gonna have to literally burn Fenris because of the magnets coming back and stuff like that. And then they punched him, the Grand Master of the Grey Knight.
One of the few times the Space Wolves were absolutely sick as hell. I did not know they didn't have serfs, but it makes sense based on the fact that like they're very sincere, and if you've seen Chaos, you kind of need to die thing. So in that case, probably one or two like servo skulls. Or if we want to appeal to my AdMech heart, give him a special Scutari from Deimos, which is if I recall correctly, in real life, it's like a moon of Mars. But in the lore of Warhammer 40k, they decided that the Grey Knights would need their own special forge world to make all their gear. So they literally took a moon of Mars and teleported it and made that a forge world for the Grey Knights, which is so wonderful. So maybe a Deimos Scutari, that'd be sick.
The Grey Knights in lore are crazy. So like to make a like one Space Marine, it's supposed to take like a million aspirants to successfully make one single Space Marine. Okay. And so the Grey Knights like levels of getting someone that is capable. So first they have to be like a psyker, okay, and then they have to be like found to be worthy of the gene seed on top of that. So it's like 1 in 1 billion out of 1 in 1 million are worthy to be a Grey Knight. And like that's how many, like, so like beyond like the selection process, they just have like a huge fail out rate to like most of the psychers that they get who are deemed as potential like candidates aren't even close enough to strength to make it through. So on top of that, you have like another 1 in 1 billion fail rate after they get pre-selected to even become an aspirant to potentially become a Grey Knight at some point.
That's probably why we haven't seen a bespoke team for them yet, because they don't have enough to put together 6 dudes.
They're at 3 out of the 5 now, or 3 out of the 6. Maybe by the end of next edition, we'll get one.
Yeah, I think that it's something like 100 trillion human lives to make one Grey Knight in the lore.
That's pretty crazy, even by 40k standards. So, but as for going back to the idea of like a rule set for him, obviously some cool psychic stuff. We only really have the Warp Coven in terms of crazy psyker powers and a little bit of like elf baloney. But I'd like to see kind of some loyalist psyker shenanigans.
You know, I think you kind of do them like Vladmsorensen, where you give like a psychic pool of abilities and you just allow each of them to potentially cast one each activation.
That could be pretty cool. And then maybe like one unique guy that his whole, he's an extra psyker dude. He gets two of them. Or he can use one that's already been used this turn or something. But yeah, that'd be pretty neat to have like a, rather than the baloney that Warp Coven is of having to pick like when you add it to your roster. Yeah, you just get a nice little simple pool of them.
I think that seems cool, and I also feel like that goes along with the game design that they're doing too, where you're seeing, like you've seen Blades of Cain, where it's you've just got your kind of basic warriors and your Exarch, and then they've all got some stuff they can do, and then with Mandrakes you have like 5 dudes with weird stuff, and then 4 normal warriors.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that for Blades of Cain and Aspect Warriors in general, that's very fitting, you know, like, because the whole point is that they are all the same person, essentially. You know, they're all of the same mind to a certain degree, and they're one with their training and stuff like that once they put on that armor. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And then I think Mandrakes, you know, like, just being shadow killers is probably enough for the basic guys. Like, them or novitiates are like pretty up there with like best basic dude in the entire game.
All right, and we have a question from Zarin. What team or teams have stood the test of time and are perfectly balanced in all ways, and why is it Blooded?
I mean, it is Blooded. Blooded has received one nerf that was indirect, like literally indirect the nerf once it got taken down from being able to take multiple crack and frag grenades to just a single one. But other than that, they haven't been touched. They're still a top tier team. They've always been a top tier team. If you're not ready for Blooded, you're not ready for the game.
Blooded are a great choice. Shout out to Brandon Bean, of course, and Zarin, you too. I know you've been playing a lot of Blooded. I'd say also Breachers. Breachers got the one change with their whole like blitz stuff, just not being as obnoxiously powerful. But beyond that, I don't think they've received a ton of like changes that were direct to them, rather than this like overall game changes. Like, hey, damage reduction shouldn't be as powerful. So I think they've stood pretty well of being like a relatively balanced team that's been fun to play.
I think Breachers are extremely powerful and still need to be nerfed. I think a lot of the discussion around this game is based around like top tier play by top tier players at the most extreme end, and they tend to meta chase. Like, no hate, you know, go get that golden ticket, y'all. But like, that affects the way that the community speaks about teams, and anyone who thinks that Breachers are not absolutely terrifying probably hasn't played someone who's competent with them recently.
That's fair. I do know Josh. He did pretty well with them, so maybe Tyler, you're onto something here. I've played them a couple times, both playing as and against, and I've seen the strengths and weaknesses of them. But if you can win initiative every time, my God, you're going to steamroll your opponent.
Yeah, they're a difficult team. Like, they have the bodies, they have the durability, you know, they have the alpha strike. Like, they're going to be able to do the stuff that they need to, and they have multiple options to execute most of it. They're very, very strong, and I would not be surprised if they received a nerf in the future. I think Commandos also need a mention here because they were the top team for pretty much the beginning. You know, like, they have stood the test of time, like, up until they got the recent nerf, and they're still amazing. If you don't think Commandos are amazing, you're wrong. They're still top tier. They can still do any and everything that they need to and do it well.
I think the Kroot are perfectly balanced for being hot garbage. Like, been hot garbage from the start, still hot garbage, will always be hot garbage.
I mean, you know, no hate against the crew, but it's kind of fitting of their personality. You know, like that, they love that shit, digging in the garbage. They're basically like Space Raccoon.
Yeah, they do like eating things and learning the knowledge from them.
Yeah. You know, I also gotta say Corsairs, they were like at a perfect 50% win rate for like literally since launch. They are extremely well balanced. Their buff recently has helped them out a ton. I think they're a fierce team now, not something to be overlooked for sure.
Well, gentlemen, speaking about eating from garbage, I hope that everybody's enjoyed eating from the garbage that we've spewed. And it's that time where we plug things.
That was a bit of a stretch, even by my standards.
Yeah, Connor, yeah, I'm not quite the I'm not quite as good at the segue as you are. You how about this? You take it over. You transition into us shilling shit.
Okay, here we go. Speaking of eating from the garbage, why don't we talk about some shills? There you go. You just got to say it with more like confidence, Chuck. Just like throw it out there. Let people know that you're garbage and be proud of the fact that we're garbage and we're shilling our garbage stuff.
Hey, if anybody is proud of being garbage, it's going to be you, buddy. So why
I
don't you
will
tell us where
take
you can
that for
find
the
you?
compliment it is. But on that note, yes, come listen to our podcast, and more importantly, go follow us on the garbage that is Instagram at the @Vox_Cascadia podcast. That's an literal underscore, not the word underscore. Come follow us. We'll probably follow you. We throw up little questions on there every once in a while, and eventually I like to do some more like kind of prize stuff with it. I can't guarantee that anytime soon, but hey, we'd love to have you. Otherwise, come follow me for all my garbage, my own personal shit posting, really, at Spanaway on everything.
And if you want any other like hollow promises like Connor has given out, I post all the time at Painting Cave Minis on Instagram. Tyler, where can the people find you?
They can find me following you at Lowbrow Minis on Instagram, or you could, like I said earlier, Big Cartel, Dice Throw It Up, BigCartel.com to buy my shirts, which are not garbage. If you're buying shirts from other people other than like Iron Litany Printing, shout out to you, cool dude over in England making some actual good quality shirts with like screen printing on good stuff. If you're not buying from us, you're buying garbage hobby shirts, and you should, think about your life. You can spend $50 on a model kit. You can spend like $40 on a really nice shirt. You deserve it.
You do deserve it. The shirts are one of the few non-garbage things we'll talk about here. Shirts are fantastic. Most of what we talk about isn't actually garbage. I should move away from this position. The shirts are fantastic. Buy those. I'm wearing one right now. I generally always am wearing one because I have like 3 of them, and I kind of just cycle between them during laundry. Otherwise, we can probably talk about it. Besides Colossal Cage Match, which is weird not shilling it, we're at 24 out of 24 players. Still come by. I'd love to see you. If you don't play, I'll give you a crisp high five or something. But thank you everyone so much, seriously, that has signed up. I know a lot of you have in the last week or two. Appreciate you all coming out. It's going to be a great time, and super excited to see you. But I'm sure we can probably talk about the next event now, Tyler.
Yeah, and then we got the Skinning Pit Summer Slam down here at Shiv Games in Kaiser, Oregon, coming up on the I want to say, what is it, the 18th of June?
15th of June.
15th of June. Wow. Yeah, that's coming up fast. It's going to be a blast. Shiv is an incredible place to play games. If you haven't been to Shiv and you're in the Pacific Northwest, you're missing out. It's going to be a excellent time, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, already excited for that. Already trying to figure out how I'm going to get down there. Like Tyler said, Shiv is a fantastic time. Thank you, Jeff, and everyone else at Shiv for letting us always come down and have a fantastic time. Go to Oregon if you're in Washington. Join us on the road trip. It's super fun. It's crazy, but that's what makes it so fun. And there's no sales tax, so it feels better to buy Warhammer there.
No sales tax is kind of the best part about Oregon. And yeah, you can, so you're saving extra basically like 10% on your models, and Shiv's got discounts. So Skinny Pit SummerSlam, June 15th, 2024. Be there. We'll sell you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge, and that's for monster truck rallies.
I don't get that one either, but that's okay. But yes,
Have you never been to a monster truck rally?
I think I did when I was 8 and we were in Vegas, and there's not a lot for an 8-year-old to do in Vegas besides monster truck rallies or going to the pool.
Oh man, I went to a monster truck rally 2 years ago at the little Salem Coliseum, okay, which it's tiny. It's tiny. It's at the fairgrounds. Okay, the monster trucks are nearly as big as the place. And I want to say after 20 minutes of the nitromethane running, ooh, my head was throbbing. It was insane. It was the weirdest high I've ever had.
There you go, Connor. That's your next one besides huffing paint cans.
I'm not huffing the paint cans. I'm just spraying a bunch of stuff and getting an indirect high.
Walking on sunshine.
He's got that he's just going out and buying cans of lead belcher so he can just huff them.
I look like Charlie from Always Sunny when he's huffing the paint.
I think he kind of looked like Charlie from It's Always Sunny anyways.
That's just because I'm a short guy with brown hair.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We got anything else to plug? Oh, Kill Scream 3. It's coming up. We're so close to announcing it. Final details. We're just like on the knife's edge of actually announcing it so y'all can buy tickets. It's going to be October 4th, 5th, and 6th here in Portland, Oregon. And it's going to be at the center of it all. And if you know that reference, you know where it is.
It's gonna be
Absolutely.
sick. Tyler,
It's going to be so incredible. Like I am so excited to be able to fully talk about it with y'all. I have had nothing but like phone calls and DMs and stuff like that with people who are going to be there and stuff like that for all kinds of exciting stuff. So yeah, can't wait to talk about it more, but it's coming up soon.
Yeah, it's like 5 months away. Tyler and I went and took a road trip last weekend to take a walk through the venue to see both floors of it because it's a 2-story event because it's going to be huge.
Yeah, this is no longer just a Kill Team tournament, y'all. Very excited to announce everything fully.
yeah, the photos look
Blackjack
sick.
and hookers.
No, I don't think we can promise that. That's the most empty promise we've had all day.
In the back with Connor huffing paint.
I will probably end up having to huff more paint. We'll probably need some more terrain, odds are.
I mean, buy an airbrush at that point, my friend.
Tyler,
To
but then
huff
I don't
paint
get
the
the same
airbrush?
high.
Hey, wait, Zach is going to be at the tournament this weekend. Zach, if you're listening, I know you're listening, buddy. Bring that tequila, bring that airbrush. I'm doing it this weekend.
This sounds dangerous. I can't wait to see it.
It's not, I'm not aerosoling it. I'm just like taking it straight from the cup.
When you die, when we all die, people aren't going to remember how many hours we worked or like any of that stuff. They're going to remember how many beers you butt chugged that one summer.
Jenna, I'll try and make sure that Chuck stays alive.
It's like, it's an airbrush shot. Unless he's got the biggest airbrush cup ever, it's not even like a real shot. Now, butt chugging tequila from an airbrush. All right. I can see that one.
That's on the Vox Cascadia After Dark edition. Subscribe to our Patreon to see that.